Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, fresh off an Easter weekend, a Wrestlemania weekend, and the last weekend before the 2025 NFL Draft. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Monday morning, brother?
I'm doing well. Yeah, the Cody Rhodes era finally over for at least a short time, so I'm happy about that.
My first question today: how was WrestleMania, Johnny?
I'm happy about that. Yesterday started off very well. Started off tremendous, and then people were unhappy with the main event. I don't know. People are so they just talk. You're talking about an older guy, Travis Scott, who. Not my cup of tea, but I do know he's a big fucking star. I do know that. And like people who don't know him are like, what is he doing there? So, that bothers me, but the end game was accomplished. And that's number 17 for John Cena, for those who care.
Okay. Rate WrestleMania from 1 to 10 for the weekend.
I'd say it's a solid 8.
Oh, that's pretty good. All right. That's pretty good. I didn't catch
8.
much of it just because it was Easter, so I had too much stuff going on all over the place. So I didn't
catch
that's
another thing. They get criticized for Easter. I'm like, look around. They're playing baseball, NBA play. They play everything on Easter. They have NFL games on Christmas. I mean, people like to complain for complaints' sake.
I do think it would hurt the ratings a little bit, but again, I don't make those decisions, and nor do I care enough to make those decisions. They do what they're going to do. They took the money. Sin City, Johnny Mac, bringing WrestleMania during Easter weekend.
Yeah, well, and they did it on purpose because it was an Easter week. They were trying to get people to travel to Las Vegas, and they accomplished that on Easter weekend. That was the goal.
Yeah,
that was the entire goal.
Speaking of Easter, I hope everybody had a fantastic Easter weekend. I will say rest in peace to Pope Francis, who passed away this morning on Easter Monday, 7 a.m., I believe it was, in Italy time. So I will pray for the repose of his soul, but rest in peace to Pope Francis. Pretty interesting that he passed away this morning. We will pray for him. John, did you see that? Passes away on Monday after Easter. Pretty significant time of death, I would say.
I did. And obviously it's a sad situation for anyone in that type of situation. But, unfortunately, when you get to age, it can come at any time. And, that's one of those things that's part of life, unfortunately.
Yep, no doubt about it. Let's move into some Eagles. We're 4 days away, everybody, from the NFL Draft. 4 days away. John, one thing happened on Friday that we didn't get a chance to talk about on our Friday edition of Birds 365. We talked about the player. We didn't talk about the fact that he was in on a top 30 visit, and that's Walter Nolan. So it was reported last week, at the end of last week, that Walter Nolan was in on a top 30 visit. I believe it was Adam Kaplan. I'm not sure if you were able to confirm that, but I did think it was interesting because, we talked about that player a lot. And then I said on Friday, what the heck? They haven't even brought him in. Are we overrating the potential of Walter Nolan to Philly? Well, it does look like he was in on a top 30 visit, John, the last one that we've heard heading into the NFL Draft this week.
Yeah, I don't think we're overrating the interest in Walter Nolan. I think we're overrating the idea that'll get to where the Eagles can get him.
Right.
And I asked Daniel Jeremiah, so everyone probably saw his quote over the weekend. I'm the one who asked him about Walter Nolan potentially fall into the Eagles at 32, and or a little bit, earlier where they could do the targeted trade up. And he kind of just said, he might go top 15. And I think as you look at, you'll see some of the stuff coming out this morning. Adam Schefter put out and we'll talk about that in a second, but he put out his annual draft day intelligence. Bruce Feldman, who does a great job from the college side, he's the preeminent college football reporter, I would say, really, really talking about, and I'm glad Bruce put out his column today, just devastating the quarterback classes from the NFL eyes. So to me, I think it's becoming clearer and clearer. New Orleans isn't taking a quarterback in number 9. They're talking about trading back up to the top of the second round to get a quarterback there. So as things start to crystallize a little bit, I think you'll see that Walter Nolan's, you got to make a big, bold move if you're going to get Walter Nolan. Excuse me. Now, Daniel also brought up, if you asked him if Cooper DeJean would be there at 40 last year, he would have laughed at you. So guys ball, he said Nolan Smith as well. If you told him he was going to go at 30, he would have laughed at you.
Right.
So stranger things have happened, and there's these weird sort of concerns about Nolan off the field. Nothing serious, nothing like Jalen Carter-ish where you had this serious, but he transferred a bunch of times, and moved around. So people start to bubble up. Might even be the Eagles trying to get people to say, I don't want this kid. But yeah, if they were able to get Walter Nolan, that would be the most Eagles-y pick of the draft, as I always call it, when they get one of those types of players. No, I don't think anybody, to your original point, I don't think anybody around the team doubted they had interest on Walter Nolan, whether they brought him in or not. I think the idea is, how do you get him when you're starting at 32? And that's the difficult part.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there. So that's the latest update on the Walter Nolan front. It was good to see that he was in on a top 30 visit. What will the Birds do in the NFL draft this week? John, the other thing that's kicking off is the offseason program kicks off today for the Philadelphia Eagles. For those who don't know, and I think there are a good amount of people, what does that exactly mean, Johnny Mac, the offseason program for the Eagles is kicking off today?
Well, it's the whole 9 weeks before the end of sort of mini camp, which is the signal of you have that little lull towards training camp in between mini camp and training camp. So this is the first day. Next 9 weeks, guys will be around. They'll be in the building. OTAs later in the process, mini camp, the last part of it. All of that is encompassed in the next 9 weeks. And today's the first day. You can start. Other teams have started with new coaches. They get a little bit of a head start, but this is the first day that the Eagles can report. Now, the first 2 weeks are just meetings and strength and conditioning and rehab and nothing on field or anything like that. So the OTAs don't start till May. They'll have a rookie mini camp after the draft. They can do that. And obviously they have 1 day of mini camp this year. So this is the start. This is the first day. And it's all voluntary except for mini camp, which is mandatory for the entire team. So guys will be in and out. But obviously all the young players, when they say voluntary, it's voluntary for the stars. The younger players damn well better show up. And some of the older guys, Fletcher Cox would often, he'd be in, pop his head in, pop his head out. And they kind of come and go as they please for the voluntary portion. But the Eagles generally have a very good attendance, at least where everybody's going to be there for some part of it. And the veteran guys who have other things to do or want to be in other parts of the country, they'll tend to pop in when the media is there. Is generally how it works, but it all starts today.
Yep. So there's all voluntary. And then the one piece, they do have the mandatory mini camp, right? What date did you say that was, Johnny Mac? The one mandatory part of it this
I don't have it in front of me. I can look it up. June 9th or June 10th, somewhere,
okay, so
somewhere around there.
A little bit later on in the offseason is when that mandatory one comes.
End of that 9 week period. Mini camp's the last thing you do.
Yeah. So some of the dates for those interested, the OTAs are divided into phases. Eagles will convene on field 6 times, May 27th and 28th, May 30th, June 2nd and 3rd, and June 5th. So there's your breakdown
Gotcha.
of the of the sessions that they will have this offseason. So pretty good. Later on in hour number 2, we're going to talk about some of the questions that we have for 2025, kind of retouching on them, the biggest questions of the offseason. Coming off of a Super Bowl is a lot different than not coming off of a Super Bowl. So the Eagles have obviously a different approach. You're losing Brandon Graham. Dallas Goedert, the question of Dallas Goedert still remains. The Kevin Patullo conversation, I think that's been on the shelf for a little while. We will resurrect that a little bit and talk about that conversation of what he can do with the offense, and then obviously a bunch of positions that we have to fill as well. But John, it's draft week, brother. When is your mock draft coming out? I know you only do one, but boy, everybody waits for it, Johnny Mac.
Well, the full is coming out Wednesday. I'm going to talk to some people today and do my Eagles only mock draft. That'll come out either later today or tomorrow. Try to get as close as possible to get as much information as possible. And yeah, we'll see. I've had some success in my Eagles only mock draft, not because of me, because of other people pointing me in the right direction. So we'll see if we can get some of that information. Becomes more difficult because I think once you get some certain things,
Right.
people lock it down even more. But we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out.
How are you feeling on the information barometer this year? You feeling like you got a lot in the Eagles or what?
Well, I got some really good information. Barron is another player that I think hasn't been talked about a lot. How do you pronounce his first name? Do we know? Jade Barron.
Yeah.
From
Something like
Texas. I don't. There's another guy. I don't see any way he makes it to even near the Eagles. But they like him a lot, and we've talked about the secondary as a whole and how much homework they've done on the secondary, which was a bit of a surprise to me coming into the process, to be honest. Knew you were going to see all that homework on the defensive front, which they've done. Offensive line, I still think it's far more likely that they go defensive front player first, whether that's a defensive tackle or an edge rusher, simply because there's more of those guys. And it's more likely playing the odds that one of those guys will fall to the Eagles or their purview, so to speak, where they can maybe get a targeted trade up and get them. But Nolan and Barron specifically are players they're very interested in, but I don't know how you go up and get them. I don't
We'll see what they end up doing. A lot of options here in the draft, John. I do worry that. Well, I don't worry. It is what it is. But are they going to? They might not even be making a pick on Thursday. Is that fair to? What would you put the percentage of them making a pick at on Thursday night?
I'm over 50. I think I'm starting to lean more towards partially talking to Daniel Jeremiah the other day. He said the same thing. And we said it. You said it on the show, I think, on Friday. And Howie said it. And Jeffrey said it. We like to zig when everybody else is zagging. So if everybody else wants to go down, which everybody else seems to want to go down, don't be surprised if the Eagles are leading the charge up. But only if they can get a player. And my problem with that is, like, who is that player other than Walter Nolan? Who is that player? And I don't see a lot of those guys. One of the few people I do listen to is Bill Polian, who's, gruff. Boy, he was great this morning on Sirius XM, explaining the draft process and all the bull, crap you hear. And he's obviously a Hall of Fame executive. And for those who don't know, but he's an old school guy. So he was fun to hear. But and he was talking about in a good year, as we've mentioned on the show, because I get it from people like Bill, maybe 20 real first round grades. Maybe. And a
Even
good
that
year.
sounds generous.
And a good year. Not this year. So, when you start to get in that range, unless one of your guys, and he points out that everybody's got a different board. Everybody's looking for different things. So there's no consensus board. You always see consensus boards. There's no consensus board. Quinyon Mitchell won 22 last year. He was a legitimate first-round grade for the Eagles. Howie was talking about it. We lucked out, basically. And he hates using that word, but he used it. He used that term luck. So a lot of teams are looking to get out once you get past 20 because you have similar grades and they're not real first round. And the mentality is, why pay first round money for a second round player? So that's the mentality. In this case, the Eagles, so many people seem to want to move out that maybe they zig when everybody else zags. So I'll go slightly above 50%. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they traded down because they're going to have a group of players they want. And if they can't get them, Nolan would be one of them. Barron would be one of them. If they can't get them, it's just because you want somebody doesn't mean you can get them.
Right.
Then they'll reconsider and probably drop down, take a more safer pick, whatever it is, 39, 40.
Right.
But I'd say right now I'm a little bit over 50%.
So you're liking the idea of a potential targeted trade up for this Eagles team, John. If you think that they will do that, or you're feeling decent about the chance of them doing that, what players do come to mind that you think would be a top 3 or a top 5 player? I mean, there's a lot of players in this draft. Do you think there's a position group? Is there a certain player? Obviously, that's, the Eagles aren't going to give out all their information on player evaluation, but is there any way you're leaning if they are going to target it, trade up, and zig when everyone else zags?
Yeah, Nolan and Barron. And I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. You got no, they're not going to go up. I don't think they're going to.
You don't think they're going to go up for Starks?
No. That's just my opinion. Just speculative. I mean, to me, they're going up to get somebody who they think is a real first round talent.
Right.
And I don't think I think Malachi's in that. So it's going to be a first round pick, probably. But he's, as Bill Polian was talking about, top 20, not that. He's not a real first round pick in the NFL's eyes. So yeah, I don't see that. Yeah, if he falls to him at 32 and they can't get out, yeah, I think it's very possible. But I don't see him, and that's my concern. I can't find a bunch of players other than Walter Nolan and Jade Barron that fit that category. And that includes the edge rushers, the offensive line they've shown interest in. Maybe Gray Zabel, but I haven't heard the Eagles talk about him that much. Yeah, I don't see a lot that fit that category. So you're almost hoping that, for whatever reason, people are concerned about Walter Nolan. He only had one successful year in college. He bailed on Texas A&M when he was the top recruit in the country, but of course, Jimbo Fisher got fired.
Yeah. Dumbo Fisher.
Well, he was the crown jewel of what was described as the greatest recruiting class in college football history. They had like 8 5-star players.
Yeah.
Texas A&M. And he was the best one. He was number 2 in the entire country to Travis Hunter. That's how good he was coming in. And he really didn't do much at Texas A&M.
Well, similar to what you say about the draft, though, you don't draft a finished product or a good or a bad player. It's the same thing in college. If you recruit a 5-star guy, you gotta have an environment that he can flourish in.
Yeah, exactly. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out. So that's part of it. Then the transfer portal, which everybody transfers out. Like, I don't know why that's a knock against players now. I mean,
It's certainly not going to be in the future. If it is right now, it's dwindling because I mean, there's how many players are in the transfer portal right now?
It's ridiculous.
I mean, you're going to get to a point, John, where every player taken in the first round has transferred once in their career. I mean,
You almost are.
now.
It's it's all like, where's he from? And you got to say, well, if you want even back, Jalen Hurts, while he went to Alabama, then he went to Oklahoma. Even if you go back to Russell Wilson, while he went to North Carolina State, then he finished at Wisconsin. Even but now it's everybody. You got to look at where they were and how many schools they played at. Some guys play 4 or 5 different schools, and they just go from year to year to year to year. So I agree with you. I can't hold that against the kid, but who knows? But clearly, I think there's some teams, and the Eagles are probably in that group, that hope that people, again, same to Jalen Carter. The problem is, all right, Jalen Carter was the 9th pick in the draft, and the Eagles moved up a spot to make sure they got him. That there's very few teams. Chicago, you should be ashamed of himself. I say it all the time. You got to get Walter Nolan to 32 or 25, 26, wherever. And then you start thinking about moving up. Are that many teams going to pass on that kid? Boy. And that's what DJ said. He said, I find it hard to believe.
Right.
And we'll see. And this is exactly, I'll give you the whole answer. Because I asked him, Walter Nolan basically dropping to the Eagles. I would say it's unlikely that he falls that low. This is Jeremiah. He's just too explosive in a passing league. I can't see him getting there. But if you had to ask me if Nolan Smith would get there, I would have said no. If you would have asked me if Cooper DeJean was going to go there in the 2nd round, I would have said no. You always prepare for it. You can always be pleasantly surprised if who falls. But I would not anticipate that he would drop that far. If he went in the top 15, I wouldn't be shocked. That one would surprise me if he made it all the way down there. That's, in this draft, he's one of the true 1st-round players in a draft with not a lot.
Exactly.
So I don't know how everybody makes that mistake, but I don't have information on it. Maybe there's something more in his background. I have no idea, but I guarantee
I've heard people
know.
bring up like character concerns with Walter. No, I haven't seen much of them. What do those pertain to?
I have no idea. That's the point. I don't have.
Same with James Pierce. I've seen the same thing. I'm like, is there something out there? Did something happen? Was there a legal issue?
There's
like
no
what
legal
happened?
issue.
Yeah, there's no legal issue. I think it's just reporting on, I guess, the player's mentality. I'm not exactly sure.
And that's, he had 8 top 30 visits. I know that. So a lot of teams are kicking the tires and looking to answer questions. The Eagles among them. But Howie mentioned when he was talking about Dom, he's the best in the business at doing it. I'm sure the Eagles will take him. They're picking behind everybody. The 49ers looked at him. The Bengals looked at him. The Broncos looked at him. The Cardinals, the Cowboys, the Packers, the Panthers, at least that we know of. Are all of those teams, I find it very hard to believe. But stranger things have happened.
How many quarterbacks are going in round 1, John?
Boy, I was at 4 last week. Now I'm wavering.
You going down or you going up?
I'm going down. Because it seems like everybody wants to get up to the top of the 2nd round.
Yeah.
Take guys. 2 or 3. The only 2 I will guarantee are going in the 1st round are Cam Ward and Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart, you're guaranteeing in round 1?
guaranteeing round 1.
Wow.
Shador, I am not guaranteeing round 1.
Jackson, a freaking dart in
I
round
think
1.
I think it's pretty clear that now it's pretty clear. It's becoming pretty clear that the Saints aren't going to draft a quarterback at 9. And if that's the case, smart move, Kellen. Well done.
Right. Is that more about the quarterback class than it is about their own quarterback situation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You don't reach for somebody you don't really like at number 9 overall. And then, so you talk about Tyler Shuck, who I think the NFL likes a little bit more than people realize, than some of the other guys. But I don't think they like him enough to where he's a true first-round pick. And Shador, he's obviously it only takes one, but who is that one going to be? I think Pittsburgh likes Dart better. I think the Saints aren't taking him. So where's he going? Now, somebody could trade back in. Cleveland could trade back into the first round. That could mix all this up. A lot of teams want to trade out. So a lot of people can go up, but it seems like they're trying to go up to the top of the second round, not the first, which tells you a lot too, because they don't really care about the 50-year option.
Right.
So, but I brought up Bruce Feldman, who does his thing every year, where he speaks to a bunch of different coaches and personnel people around the league. And he got this quote. This is a doozy. This is such a bad quarterback class. I think they're all developmental guys. And then you got somebody talking about Jackson Dart being the second quarterback taken, which is growing around the league, that sentiment that he's going to be the second quarterback taken. And this was supposed to be a compliment about Jackson Dart being the second quarterback taken, but it's not a compliment. No knock on Shador, but Dart has a stronger arm, is a bigger man, has more mobility, which is the good part, and saying he's better than Shador. Now, here's the bad part. I see him as more of a polished Drew Lock.
What an upside for a first-round player.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, why would you take a player like that in the first round in the NFL draft at quarterback? So, I mean, this is a bad quarterback. And there's some guys draft guys I really respect who really get angry when you say it's a bad draft class, because they, everybody's got to be optimistic now. You can't, and that's how coaches coach. That's how personnel, they talk optimistically like that. They see that as a compliment. But I mean, first of all, we're talking about the top of the draft. And if you can't acknowledge the top of this draft is weak, I don't know what to tell you. And certainly the quarterback class is weak.
So would it be better for the Eagles, from an Eagles perspective? Would it be better for quarterbacks to go early, or would it be better if they started to slip a little bit? Because I think it might be better if actually they, if there's only Cam Ward taken in the top 10, and then you're like, ooh, does anybody want to move up? And then that could push more people, down the board, maybe for like the later.
Well, it doesn't. The more they go, the better for the Eagles. I mean, because then you're getting better players getting pushed down, and these guys don't belong in the first.
I guess it doesn't matter whether they go top 10 or top 20, as long as they go for the Eagles. Then you're pushing people down.
A more polished Drew Lock.
See, so here's where I go on Cam Ward with this conversation. I know Cam Ward is the best quarterback in the draft, and I'm not saying
he's not that good.
But here's what I'm saying: like, you're telling me that some of these other dudes you wouldn't even spend a first-round talent on, and I don't disagree with you, or a first-round pick on. You're going to spend the number 1 overall pick on Cam Ward.
I mean,
I think he's a first rounder, but what's more value? Shador, let's say, at 21, or Jackson Dart at 21, or Cam at 1? I don't know.
Well, that's another thing Polian talked about. Like, he didn't give a shit about value. But I think that's a little bit unrealistic from the standpoint that that's not how all GMs believe. And certainly that's not how Howie believes. There is something to the value aspect of it. And in the case of quarterback, though, if you believe in the quarterback, like I said, one of the things when the Eagles would talk about, oh, yeah, we just missed on Russell Wilson. For years, they would talk about Russell Wilson this, Russell Wilson that. Dude, you missed on him in the third round. If you love him that much, take him in the second round.
Exactly.
And they learned from that, and they took Jalen Hurts in the second round, which has worked out for them. Because there isn't a lot of people who thought Jalen Hurts was going to the second round.
Yeah, I remember it was a surprise on draft night when it happened. I remember it.
I got the information early, and I said, this is not true. I did. I had it. And I believe I was
told this story. You hesitated to put it out there, didn't you? Yeah.
Yes. I was like, this makes no sense. And I only had a single source. And, sometimes you have to go with single source, but I tried to double source everything. But you can't double source draft picks in the moment. Or you can, but then you're behind everybody else.
Right.
And then by the time it's been, we're talking a minute early and on draft. Like, not a lot of time.
Yeah, right. I know what you're saying. Yeah. Like,
not a lot of
legitimately
time.
Right before it happened.
Yeah. And I did get it out before they took the pick. I don't know if I was first. I don't know how it worked, but I did get it out before I took the pick. And I said, all right, this guy's trustworthy. But I looked at it and I said, this cannot be possible. This cannot be possible. And it ended up being right, thank God, because that would have been embarrassing if it wasn't right. But anyway, I tell that story only to the point of they learned from Russell Wilson that said, all right, they could have waited to the third round, maybe even gotten him, but they didn't want to. And they learned from Russell Wilson. So to bring it back to Cam Ward, look, if the quarterback hits, should he go 1? No, it's not the best player in this.
Yeah, right.
Best
but if he hits, who cares? Yeah.
Yeah. But if he hits and you believe in him and he's a good quarterback, who cares? Because the value of that position is going to be even higher than if you get a good quarterback. That means more than even if Abdul Carter turns into whatever, all pro. Travis Hunter turns into an all-pro. They're the best players. Having a quarterback, having a good quarterback, forget about a great quarterback. Having a good quarterback is more valuable than that.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Abdul Carter, as good as he is, he's not going to change a franchise around. Now, I don't think Cam Ward's the guy to do that either. I like Cam Ward, actually. I think he's got decent, good arm, moves the ball downfield, decently mobile. I like some of the things, but I don't like him as a number 1 overall pick. But anyway, I digress. We'll see what ends up happening in the draft this week. Tons of players, tons of options out there, tons of different ways this thing can do. John, I've been following on the mock drafts, and honestly, I don't look at them like other people look at them. I kind of just view them to say, okay, who's taking what players where? What's the general consensus right now on certain players? I have seen some more names in round 2 that I think are likely or possible to fall. Where if the Eagles did want to move back, obviously you got to find a partner, but they're still going to be able to get a good player. Like, I've seen a lot of Nick Scorton fall into the round 2. I've even seen like Shamar Stewart. I've seen Gray Zabel, who I think is a very Eagles pick if they wanted to move back a little bit for him. And then you mentioned at the top of round 2, if the quarterbacks fall, maybe that improves the Eagles' chances of being able to get a player. If a bunch of quarterbacks go at the start of round 2, maybe if they're able to move back a couple of spots or something like that. So I do think you're going to be able to get a good player. It's just all about which way the board falls this year.
Yeah, I should have mentioned Stewart's another guy that DJ Daniel Jeremiah mentioned as a potential of interest to the Eagles. I don't love the player because just he didn't produce.
Right.
He didn't produce at a really good program with a really good team and really good supporting cast around him. I'm not in love with the player, but he did mention him, so I should mention him. And he's very athletic, as we talked about during the combine. So he fits from the Eagles standpoint there. And the Eagles are very, cognizant of developing players, and they're very good at developing players. And they're not one of the teams that thinks they draft a good player and that's it. They realize they have to develop these guys.
Right.
But I don't think he's the guy who's going to help you like right away, like day one. And maybe you're not going to get that player. But if you get Walter Nolan, you're getting that player. He's going to help you day one. Day one.
Right.
I don't see that with Shamar Stewart, but he did mention him, so I'll throw that name out there as well.
If the Eagles ended up, let's just say they get Walter Nolan. I don't know where it would be, but let's just say the Eagles end up with Walter Nolan, whether it's a trade up, a trade back, whatever it might be, or at 32. What does that mean for Jordan Davis, if anything? What does that mean for Moro Jomo, if anything? How do you see that having ripple effects on the team as it sits today?
No impact on Jordan Davis other than even less likely for the people that think, like, I should say no impact from my standpoint, but I understand what he is. There's a lot of people want him to develop and play more on third downs. So if you're one of those people, then it impacts him. But he's going to be a 2-down player, so it's not going to impact him. It'll impact Morrow a lot.
Right. He'll fall back into that reserve role.
He'll fall back into what he was this year.
Right.
Because Nolan will be Melton Williams. That's
right.
That's the replacement, player for player. He'll be Melton Williams.
I think that would be a pretty damn good pick, man. Solidify that defensive line. Obviously, get another young defensive tackle in there next to Jalen Carter. I think that's a home run move. I've been saying that for a month, though. I really think that makes the most sense for this football team. But the other thing that is out there is, maybe Vic feels differently. And I'm not going to sit here and say I know more than Vic Fangio, for crying out loud. But he did just have the number one overall defense, John. He didn't have a dominant edge rusher on the team. He had good edge rushers. He didn't have a dominant edge rusher. Outside of Jalen Carter, that was his one dominant guy. So maybe Vic's like, I need to have my coverage locked. I don't know, but I've heard people speculate that, and that's maybe where this interest in Malachi Starks is coming from, is Vic wants secondary players. Obviously, they brought in a bunch of corners as well, which I didn't anticipate them to do for the early rounds. How do you think Vic sees that? Like, do you think Vic looks at the defense and is like, I need to improve the defensive line? Or is it the opposite? I need competence on the defensive line, but I need a good secondary. What do you think Vic sees as more important specifically for this team right now in terms of, I don't want to say rebuilding, but retooling that defense?
Yeah, it's very important. In fact,
but defensive line or secondary, what do you think is more?
Oh, no. Well, defensive front is always first. But when I did talk to one of the people very close to the Eagles situation, what I got was what I do know, and this is him talking, not me. What I do know is that they've been hitting the secondary hard late in the process. The position coaches have been doing a ton of evaluations, looking for impact so they can maintain that elite coverage unit. And this is where I got Barron. Chade Barron and Starks are the only names I've heard from them. But I don't know what type of grade they have on them, so he doesn't know. But I've heard Barron to the Jets in the top 10. I don't know how that's even remotely possible. Starks obviously would be that the Eagles are where he should go, somewhere at the end of the first round.
Right.
So that to me is more realistic. But if it's an even grade, defensive front, offensive line as well versus safety, they're taking the offensive lineman or defensive front player.
We'll see what they do. What do you think their ceiling is on a trade up, John? Like, do you think they would go not that high, right? Is it 26? Is it 20? Is it like how high do you think they would realistically be willing to go if they did identify, I want to go get Walter Nolan?
20. If Walter fell, probably 24, somewhere in that range. I would say for other players, if they have interest in other players, maybe 27, 28.
Yeah.
You're not making these huge moves. And we'll talk about AJ. Top 10. Jesus Christ.
Oh, God. I forgot to bring that up. We got to bring that up, too. The AJ Brown stuff.
Jesus.
I mean, it's Easter weekend, and I'm getting notifications on my phone about AJ Brown being traded. I'm like, please, I don't have time for this right now. Stop.
Oh, my Lord. So anyway, yeah, they're not going up in the top 10. It takes way too much. And, they don't have a lot of assets to get up into that realm, nor would they want to get up in that realm because usually you're trying to go get a quarterback. And
right.
They don't need a quarterback, and there are no quarterbacks even if they wanted a quarterback. So, but, when people, and like I said, I tweeted out yesterday and Adam made it official today. And by the way, that's a joke because anybody with any credence or who covers the Eagles has been telling you this for a long time. You're not getting traded. I don't care what some little birdie told some rando radio host in Boston. So, yeah, if you really want to talk credibly about trades, and for most of these people, the end game is engagement, so they don't care. But for those who, I'm just talking about those fans want to be honest, want to understand what's going on, want to be objective about what's going on. Focus on the contracts before you start talking about the players.
Right. And we're not going to engage bait you here. We're going to give you the truth because here's where I think the conversation is realistic. People see the way the Eagles are built right now, and it's obviously a very expensive offense. They also see contracts that are coming up on the defense. If you're going to speculate, okay, where is their next cost cutting coming in order to pay the defense? I think that's a realistic thought process and conversation. I don't think AJ Brown's going to be here forever, to be blunt. But where it's bullshit is that it's going to happen right now before the NFL draft. What's his dead cap?
Exactly. They would lose if they traded pre-June 1st. They would lose $42 million in cap space. Right there, that's the end of the conversation.
That doesn't even make sense.
That's it.
Your team gets worse and you
now,
lose.
I get there's a lot of arcane rules in the NFL. A lot of people don't understand. We'll just make them post June 1st. You can't do that. They would have to trade right now. They've already designated Darius Slay when they did that, James Bradbury when they did that. You only get 2. They did change a couple years ago. You can do trades post June 1st, but they're out of post June 1st designation. So if they trade them on draft night, they take a $42 million cap hit. Right there. End of discussion.
That doesn't sound like good business, everybody.
I think they have $12 million of cap space right now. I'll look it up on the NFLPA.
My question for anybody perpetrating or talking about these rumors, okay, is what is more valuable to the Eagles that they would trade or get back in a trade than losing their best player and $42 million? Like this doesn't even make an inkling of sense.
I get it from the standpoint of that. Look, and again, this is where I said, if you want to talk about trades on, and maybe you don't want to, and that's fine. Maybe you just want to have fun. Everybody, let people have fun. All right, go have fun. Go play fantasy football if that's what you want to do. But if you want to be honest and you want to understand what's going on and you want to be objective, that's why I said focus on the contracts before you start talking about the players. Because you can say, well, the Eagles run the ball anyway, so why do you need an all-pro wide receiver? All right, that makes some sense. They need an edge rusher. Abdul Carter's a great prospect, maybe the best prospect in the draft. That makes sense. You know, the Patriots need a wide receiver. That makes sense.
Right.
They're trying to help AJ. All that makes sense. So I get it from that stamp who don't understand the business part of it. And maybe you don't want to understand the business part of it. I get that too, because it's boring sometimes and it's not fun and blah, blah, blah. All right. But again, it's not realistic. It's not even remotely realistic. Now, I don't blame fans as much as I blame pseudo media people who pick up on this. And you can point out to who, I'm not going to bring up names, but you got the guy from, but there's also people here that pick up on it and try to further it. Is it for engagement or grifting people? I don't know. Maybe. Is it for they just don't understand? I don't know. Maybe. Either one's not
like
good.
Stirring the pot too. People like to stir the pot and sit back and watch.
Either one's not. It's not good. If you want to be credible, if you don't want to be credible, who cares? I agree with that as well. But if you want to be credible, it's not realistic. Don't talk about it.
Right.
And hey, we're on this show, and I always try to say I try to educate people as much as possible. Some believe it, some don't. I don't give a shit. I could do a lot more and be more popular and do a lot of things if I said bullshit. I know that. People love it. It's not what I want to do.
Speaking of the great A.J. Brown, best receiver in Eagles have had in a very long time, maybe
Best
ever.
receiver in Eagles history.
I agree.
And they have Hall of Famers.
Speaking of him, though, John, he just tweeted out 7 minutes ago. It's 8:49 in the morning, 8 minutes ago now.
Come on.
8:41 a.m. He tweeted out, "Dear Philly, to whoever stole my car last night, I'll make a deal with you. Bring back my car and I won't press charges. Or when I find you today, it's going to be what it's going to be.
Oh,
Take
my
it or
Lord.
leave it, my guy." For the love of God, everybody, stop stealing people's cars, especially players, but anybody. What is going on with that?
Yeah, it is an epidemic. You know, if you live in Philadelphia, you're going to get your car stolen. And if you got a nice car, it's sad. But yeah, that happened to CJ. Jeez, come on. Yeah. I realize they don't realize it's an Eagles player most likely, but whew. Yeah, maybe all right.
I don't know much, so I don't want to, but like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't want to. I don't know what happened, but
I don't either. But like, isn't there a like where is AJ keeping his car that it would get stolen? I guess it could just be sitting in his driveway. I mean, somebody, I just don't know. Like, again, I'm not trying to count pockets or anything, but like, doesn't AJ have the means to be able to, I don't know, put his car in a garage or something like that? Like, how the hell does his car?
He certainly does. But what if you're just driving around and somebody steals your car?
Yeah,
yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, he's got the means to do whatever he wants to keep it under armed guard 24/7. But these guys are human beings. They do go places.
Yeah, right. Maybe he went out to dinner in the city or something, and somebody swiped it.
Yeah, well, I would say don't steal anybody's car.
Yeah, I agree. That's the first thing I said. What are we stealing people's cars for? Thieves are going to
and the Tesla stuff and all that. I mean, I was taking my garbage out this morning and I saw a Tesla and I said, "Boy, that looks nice." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not buying that because somebody's going to key my car." I'm like, "Well, you got to worry about that shit." It's like it's insanity. Yeah, but anyway, maybe AJ will get traded because he doesn't want to be here because you're stealing this car.
Can you blame him for not liking living here if his car's getting stolen in the middle of the night, by the way, on the day after Easter or the day of Easter? I mean, come on, everybody. But I wanted to give that update because I just saw people commenting in the chat about it. I'm like, what do you mean AJ Brown's car got stolen? So I went over to his Twitter, and that's what he tweeted out. I don't know if he'll delete it or something, maybe, but yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. If you're a listener of Birds 365, don't be an asshole. Okay. We don't like assholes. And we want to, as John always says, educate the people, but we have a good listening base. So we appreciate that. Let's get to a couple super chats. Then we'll get to our first commercial break. JD3 checking in. What's up, brother? He says, J-Mac, Jay Uso sucks, and Harrison Bryant, 2025 All-Pro NFC Offensive Player of the Year. Yeet.
We get a yeet for Jay Uso, who won the World Heavyweight Championship.
Oh, did he win? He was going against who? Gunther?
Gunther, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you said you like Gunther. Were you upset at that one?
Yeah, I like Gunther. I'm not a big Jay Uso fan, but there's a lot of people that hate Jay Uso, but he's got an amazing sort of connection with the audience. So, there's a lot of wrestling nerds. I'm one of them, so I can say it, but they get way too mixed up on work rate, as it's called. Oh, what can he do in the ring versus guys who are over with the crowd? And I don't like Jay Uso, but he's over with the crowd.
No, he's good. Yeah, Triple H was channeling his inner Johnny Mac last week, John. He's just slashing down the trolls left and right. It's like, what should I do? Listen to the stadium of 20,000 people erupting or some troll on Twitter? I'm like, did Johnny Mac get on the phone with Triple H this week? What's going on? I thought that was pretty funny.
Well, I've spoken to him over the years, but yeah, I mean, that's the point. 125,000 people basically over 2 nights. And they're all going nuts for him. Yeah. And people are on Twitter saying, oh, he shouldn't be in the spot he is. Well, some of the other people who are great, in-ring performers can't get people engaged to do anything, can't do an interview, can't get people behind them. Yeah, they're not going to be successful.
Good stuff there. Let's go to Suo Blaze. What's up, Suo? He says, I'm all about Dylan Gabriel on day 3 for a backup. Yeah, I heard John.
I love Dylan Gabriel. He's the best quarterback in the stretch. Just from playing the position, I always have to explain that contextually. He's undersized. He doesn't have NFL traits, but from understanding how to play the position, he's the best quarterback in this draft. And as a backup on day 3, yeah, I'd take him. I don't think the Eagles are looking for a backup on day 3, but
you think they're going to draft a quarterback this year? What would you put the probability of that at?
I don't think they are.
I don't either. I don't think they need to. They got Dorian, they got Tanner. Now maybe
I don't trust either of those guys, but
I don't either. I don't either. But there is I don't know. Maybe they would trade Tanner. I had some guy who was mad at me, John. Yeah, I guess I don't know. Someone brought up, trade Tanner for a 4th-round pick, and I said on the afternoon show, I'm like, guys, you're not getting a 4th-round pick for Tanner McKee. You'll be lucky to get a 6th-round pick. And some guy in the comments got so mad at me for saying that about Tanner McKee. I'm like, what is the infatuation with this guy, man? John, can you give clarity? What do you think the Eagles would get for Tanner McKee?
Why would they trade him? He's got to be their backup quarterback, unless you believe that much in Dorian. And you think these guys are interchangeable? Like, their whole plan is to make him the backup quarterback because he's had 2 years of development.
Right.
I've heard people say 2nd round. You can get a 2nd round pick for Tanner McKee. No, you can't. You might be able to get a conditional 4 if he plays well in the preseason again, and you can convince people and desperate people and say, well, this kid's got some upside, maybe we'll take a shot on him. And you put the condition on it from Howie's perspective. If he plays well, then it turns into something even better. So there's you can fool some people with quarterback versus other players. That part exists. They got a 2nd round pick for AJ Bealey back in the day because he had a couple good games, but he'd have to do it in the regular season and not week 18 because he played well in week 18. Not when everybody's sitting in a meaningful environment in the regular season to get into the AJ Bealey territory. But the Eagles want him to be the backup quarterback.
Yeah, by the way, I like Tanner McKee. I just don't think his trade value is what, people are out there thinking that he's, like a chess piece for us this year. To get what we want. I'm like, I don't really see him as that.
And here's the problem. If Dorian Thompson, because the Eagles like Dorian Thompson Robinson more than Tanner McKee coming out. They weren't able to get him because Cleveland took him. Were they the same year? I don't know. They might have been 1 year off, but they liked Dorian Thompson-Robinson coming out the year he came out. I'd have to double check if they cross-reference that, but they liked him a lot.
Let's see. Tanner was 2023. So I'll look up Dorian Thompson. He was 2023 as well. Yep.
Yeah.
So he was a 5th round, 140th overall. Yeah. Tanner was 188 overall.
Yeah, and they like Thompson-Robinson a lot. So, you know, if he comes in and plays well over the summer, and, you know, it wouldn't shock me if he's the backup, to be honest. But that's not going to help you with the trade value of Tanner McKee if he's losing to Dorian Thompson-Robinson in training camp. But I don't expect that to happen. Things move quickly in the NFL. The Eagles like Tanner McKee. They traded Kenny Pickett because they think he's ready to be the backup quarterback.
I like McKee better than Pickett. I don't know if you do, but I do.
Well, again, it depends. Is he playing 17 games? I'd rather take a shot on Tanner McKee. Is he playing 2 games? I'd rather have Kenny Pickett.
Right, because he obviously has more experience, game experience. He can manage
to run the clean operation as Kellen Moore.
Exactly. Especially when you have this much talent on the Eagles. That's a big part of it, you know, because you gotta be able to work it in there and manage that. Josh B checks in. What's up, Josh B? Josh B won a giveaway last week. He wasn't here, but he did check in with me over the weekend. I saw your DM this morning, Josh B. I was off the phone for the weekend, all right? So I didn't see many of my DMs, but I will get back to all of you guys who reached out. Josh B., member for 5 months, says, the nonsense by these reporters on the AJ stuff is what's wrong with sports media. It's definitely growing, too.
Well, some guy on Boston radio is not a reporter. And even the guys on WA, they're not reporters, with the exception of Elliott. And I don't think Elliott said anything about it.
No, he didn't. I think honestly, I think everybody's has a little bit of fault. Like, you can be mad at the Boston radio guy, but like you just said, he's not a reporter. So he doesn't give a shit about reporting truth. He can speculate all the things that you said are true. The Eagles are in a cap crunch. The Eagles have a running game. The Eagles need an edge rusher. We need a wide receiver. Like, he can speculate that, but we're the ones who ate it up, and then people permeate it, and then people consume it, react, and respond to it. And that's where it all comes from.
Yeah. But, you know, the way he framed it, it was like he got some information, the Boston guy, which is complete and utter bullshit. I mean, it's complete bullshit.
Right.
And if you are a reporter, you know that. But I get that fans don't necessarily know it. But again, you look at the contract and say, all right, this is not possible. This is literally not possible. You know, he could have checked that. It's public knowledge. But, you know.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that. Johnny Mac, good stuff. Good opening segment here as we prep for the NFL draft. 4 days out, everybody. Just a recap for you. Walter Nolan was in on a top 30 visit. We didn't have a chance to talk about that on Friday. Inside the Birds is Adam Kaplan, put that out after the show. So he was in for a top 30 visit. The off-season program kicked off today. So the 9-week voluntary off-season program for the Philadelphia Eagles kicked off today. John, does that mean officially players, not everybody obviously, but players are down at the NovaCare complex, and the 2025-2026 season is kicked off and underway?
Yeah, players are down there. I would say the vast majority of players are down there.
Maybe AJ's not because his damn car was stolen.
Maybe he's got maybe AJ. Well, AJ's in the category of, you know, if he needs a day off and says, "Hey, my car got stolen," right, he can have a day off.
Yeah, but if he does miss today, we can't blame him entirely, all right? Because he might not have had a means of transportation after his car was stolen.
I'm sure he's got more than one car, but
but still, he's got to deal with the fall, the mayhem.
Yeah, that's a dick move, stealing somebody's car.
Dick move. It really is. I hate to see that. You know, it's the second time in the last 2 years or 3 years that
CJ got his. Yeah, CJ got his stolen. Yeah.
Dad says he has 20 cars. Bring out the Honda. Yeah, maybe that's why. Maybe he should have stuck to the Honda. It might not have gotten stolen last. I don't know what he.
Well, that's another thing. You'll hear people say that, and I'm not picking up. He should be able to, he's successful in life.
Yeah,
he should be able to drive whatever he wants to drive.
Agreed.
And people shouldn't be dicks. I don't think that's asking a lot.
I don't either. Law and order in society, John. It's a good thing. All right. Let's get to our first commercial break. We appreciate all you guys being here. Those were the updates, though. The A.J. Brown trade rumors. Johnny Mack squashed them, as he should. The Walter Nolan update and then the offseason program. We'll talk about more of those things. I do have a couple things that I think are important that we discuss as this offseason program kicks off. All right. There's a couple of questions out there on this 2025 team that we certainly have to be addressed. There are things that we've talked about a lot recently. There are things we haven't talked about recently. So we'll bring those up, and then we'll continue to dive into the NFL draft. No Jeff Kerr today. For those who listen in on Monday, we had a late cancellation from Jeff. He had something come up. So we'll get Jeff Kerr on tomorrow on Tuesday's edition of Birds 365. I know some people love that segment. So we will get Jeff up tomorrow. We apologize for the late cancellation from Jeff Kerr, but he's all good. Yeah, he does a lot for us, so we appreciate him. We'll be right back, everybody, on Birds 365 in 3 minutes.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Birds 365. It's NFL Draft Week here on the show. The NFL Draft will kick off on Thursday night. Round 2 and Round 3 will be on Friday night, and then rounds 4 through Round 7 will be on Saturday in the daytime, right, John? It's like 1 o'clock, I think it kicks off on Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday's Saturday afternoon. So,
yeah, so
Thursday night, Friday
coming.
night, yeah.
big week of work coming for us here. We'll keep you guys posted on everything that happens whenever the Eagles make a pick. All right, we will be live. We will cover it. We will talk about it. We will break it down and give you the latest on the newest Philadelphia Eagles. John, from my estimation too, I think a massive part this year that we will see for the Philadelphia Eagles in this draft process is undrafted free agents and just guys like, you remember the Mekhi Becton deal last year where they signed him after the draft. I think you're going to see a lot of that this year with the Eagles. I don't know why. I just think they're going to. I know they need to fill out their roster. Not a huge top-heavy draft. I think they're going to be adding some undrafted free agents this year.
Well, you always add undrafted free agents, but it might be a little bit bigger class than it was last year. Last year was a small class, but you always have undrafted free agents. Everybody does. And the Eagles will have a little bit more this year than maybe typically. And they typically, again, Jeffrey Lurie, they usually have one of the bigger budgets for undrafted free agents, and that'll be the case. So
maybe they won't this year.
No, I think they will, because you're talking that's an outside the market. You're talking very little money from
still not a lot of
standpoint.
Money, right?
Yeah. And it's just it's another way where you can find a Reed Blankenship and win, outside the margins, as they like to say. So yeah, that'll be part of it. But the Mekhi Becton types, like if they draft Malachi Starks, they're not bringing in Justin Simmons. But if they don't get Malachi Starks, they might bring in Justin Simmons. That's how that works. So,
right.
If they draft him, they're not bringing in Justin Simmons. But if they don't get a safety of that magnitude, and if they don't get Starks, they probably won't. There's some other guys that can be relevant, change things, but that's why you look at where you are after the draft. What did you want that you didn't get, and you try to fill in holes that way.
Right.
If they would have gotten Fautano last year, they wouldn't have brought in Mekhi Becton. So that's sort of how that works.
Right. The dominoes have to fall before you really know which way they're going to go. We will see how they fall here this year in the NFL draft. John, 3 years ago in the draft, okay, it was 3 drafts ago now, the Philadelphia Eagles traded for A.J. Brown. We talked about A.J. Brown a little bit today with his car getting stolen, all right? But three years ago, we traded the 18th overall pick for A.J. Brown, gave him a 4-year, $100 million deal. The rest is history. He's gotten another deal since then already. We've won a Super Bowl. We've appeared in 2 Super Bowls, and they've been a top team in the NFL since acquiring A.J. Brown. This year, John, what would you put the percentage at that the Eagles would trade their top pick for a star player? Is it 0? Is it high? You think it's actually a chance that they do it? Where are you on that? I don't think they're going to go that route. I haven't thought about it much, to be honest, but I did want to throw it out there. This is a team that you heard Howie talk about. This is a team that's ready to win and continue winning. Maybe they would value potentially moving that pick for a top player, or maybe a player that wants a contract, or a Trayvon Walker or somebody like that. What do you think the percentage of that happening is in this draft?
Very little, from the standpoint of 32 is not as relevant as a middle round pick. Pretty significant difference from that standpoint. And B, the more important part, and I'm glad you brought it up, just as we talked about with AJ trade, is the contract. They gave, at the time, that was a massive contract for AJ Brown.
Right.
Still is, but even bigger now, obviously. So if you talk about Trey Hendrickson, for instance, or TJ Watt, or you're talking $30 million players. In the case of Watt, closer to 40.
Yeah, I'd more go the Trayvon Walker route, a younger guy. I don't know if the Eagles want to dabble with 30-plus guys. I really don't, John.
Well, no, they don't.
That's everything they've done leading up to this point has been the opposite of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. That's why I brought up AJ's contract. Right. To the point of Trayvon Walker, maybe he's not at those guys, but you're not getting him cheap.
No, but at least you get a young player. At least you get a player you might feel could be a building block.
Yeah, I because again, in that type of situation, you're probably talking about extensions, and
It would definitely be an extension. I don't think you would see a trade and then not an extension.
And what do you think Trayvon Walker's going to get? I mean, yes, he hasn't lived up to the billing, but again, really expensive. And they're not in a position to do that right now, as Howie's explained multiple times. He can always change his mind, but I don't see him changing his mind for that player. The only player I could have seen him shifting for is Myles Garrett. It's the only one. And they didn't do it for Myles Garrett, so I don't think they're doing it for anybody else.
Did they not do it for Myles, or was that just not the chance was never fully presented to them to do it?
Well, the chance was never presented to him, but he was pretty concrete. And maybe, you don't know, maybe he was concrete about it because he knew he wasn't getting him. But yeah, he didn't have an opportunity to get him. But he had pretty much said, look, we're not in a position to do it right now. We'd love to have everybody, he said, as a matter of fact, but we're not in a position. And that's what he said. And again, maybe that would have changed if it was more realistic, because I know they love the player, but who doesn't? But if they're not pressing for a player like that, I don't think they're going to pay Trayvon Walker $25 million.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it was luck. I did want to bring it up, though, just because, I've seen some people say maybe they should trade. Obviously, they have a history of doing it. It's not like they've never traded it. Brought up A.J. Brown. So I did want to ask you about it, John. Good context there. The next thing I want to talk about, John, in this draft is tight ends. All right. We haven't heard of any top 30 visits on any tight ends. We really don't know what the heck is going on with tight end. Is Goddard going to be back? Is he not going to be back? Are they going to draft a guy or not? Are they just going to stick with the committee approach with Calcaterra, Harrison Bryant, and Kylan Granson? It's a possibility. I'm not saying they will, but it's a possibility for certain. I'm going to give you a name I love in the draft, John. I love this player.
Gunnar Helm?
It's not Gunnar Helm. It's not Gunnar Helm. And I think the Eagles are in a bit of a pickle to get if they wanted to get this guy. But it's Mason Taylor. I think he's a perfect fit for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he would be a red star type player that they would love. Now, I've started to see him get mocked way higher than I was originally projecting. I've even seen somebody put him in at 32. Now, I don't think that's possible. I don't think the Eagles would draft him there at all. But I do love the player. What do you think of Mason Taylor, and where do you think he would go? Would the Eagles be able to get in range for a guy like Mason Taylor? He, to me, seems like such an Eagles pick.
Yeah, I think they're in no man's land unless he starts to fall pretty drastically. They're not going to take him at 32. He's not going to be there at 64. So, where are you going to take him?
Yeah, I think 32 to 40 is somewhere in there is where he's going to go.
And, I think they like other players more than Mason Taylor. And again, offensive line, defensive line, and even secondary now, right, I would say is ahead of tight end. Now, and part of that could be because it's a pretty strong tight end draft. So if you talk about, and you're not going to like them all. Elijah Arroyo, Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson, Harold Fannin Jr., who they, I don't see the fit, but you got to mention him because Scott Lepler's here. And then even if Gunnar Helms of the world, because I know people aren't going to get excited about that, Mitchell Evans, the kid from Georgia, Ben Urasek, Thomas Padone is a guy I've mentioned. You can get one of those guys on day 3, and that could be your starting tight end.
Right.
Not this year, but 2-3 years down the road. And then the part of, hey, Dallas Goedert's still here. Don't forget. Yeah, he's under contract.
I know, but that stalemate's got to come to an end soon, no? I think it's going to come after June 1. I don't think right now. But
that's the whole point. It's pretty clear that to me that And if it's clear to me, it's probably pretty clear to Dallas Goedert that they're not thinking about Dallas Goedert long term. So, the best case scenario, I think, if you're an Eagles fan, is a Josh Sweat type situation where Dallas agrees to take less money this year and then he's out next year. That's your best case scenario. Which would work for 1 year, but I don't know how realistic that is.
All right. Would you trade 32 with Dallas Goedert? Let's say a third and a future third, or maybe a future second, future third, to go up to 16 if you could get Tyler Warren. Would you do it? I don't know if that would be enough. I'd have to put somebody would have to help me out with the actual value of what you would need. I know I'm just throwing a couple things out there. It might be more draft picks, but in theory, would you go down that road at all?
Well, hey, Tyler Warren's not reaching 16, but
You don't think so?
No.
Tight end? I think he
No.
could fall to 16.
It's a terrible draft, and he's one of the best 5 players in the draft. And I apologize to all my buddies out there. And by terrible draft, I mean at the top, blue chip players. You could argue, to me, the best 4 players in this draft are Carter, Hunter, and Hunter's got problems because you got to decide on a position. And He wants to play both positions, but he's tremendously gifted. Genty and Warren. One's a running back, one's a tight end. Those to me are the best 4 players in the draft, the best pure football players in the draft. He's going to last to 16. There's a lot of dumb teams, but I don't think they're that dumb. And there's a lot more valuable positions, obviously. So, I think he's going to be a top 10 pick.
I don't know. I could still see a run on defensive linemen and things that push Warren.
Well,
down
I could
a little
see,
bit.
there's going to be surprises, but I think he's going to be a top 10 pick. And if he isn't, all right, then we talk about Chicago or something. If Genty goes 5, a lot of people are pointing him to the Jags now. All right, he might fall to 10, but he's not balling.
The Jags didn't they just take the?
No, the Jags are a dumb organization. No offense, Tony.
Yeah, they are.
A lot of people are speculating they've fallen in love with him, but we'll see. But
Daz basically sums up why I think Warren could fall. If your team is not a playoff team and your GM drafts a tight end, I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think what a lot of people miss is that if you're, yes, in theory, in a normal year, okay, you want to take, just as I said, the Eagles are going to always default to defensive line, offensive line, quarterback obviously is number 1, but that's where you're going to default to. There aren't a lot of players to default to in this draft. That's why you see guys other than Carter and Hunter, Genty, all right, after that group, who are you going with? You go with Walter Nolan. From a talent standpoint,
right.
Armand Membo from a talent standpoint, Mike Green from a talent standpoint, Barron from a talent standpoint.
I think Mike Green could fall, speaking of him.
At worst, Tyler Warren, I don't know. He's not balling to the fucking Eagles, guys. I'm sorry.
I didn't say fall to the Eagles. I said trade up, send some assets, move up into the top 20 and pick up Tyler Warren.
And why would you be trading for a 30-year-old tight end when you could just take the tight end?
Because your team absolutely stinks.
Well, yeah, but if your team absolutely stinks, you don't want 30-year-old players, 30-year-old expensive players.
Yeah, so I guess it doesn't work. I guess it doesn't work at all. Unless you're throwing up multiple ones.
And by the way, from the Eagles standpoint, again, we talked about with AJ, which is ridiculous. they would lose $9.5 million of cap space by trading Dallas Goedert before June 1st, which is the draft. That's why we keep talking about after June 1st. They would lose $9.5 million of cap space.
Eagles are going to drop back in round 1. They're going to pick up Nick Scorton at 38 or 40. They're going to take the extra pick they got to drop back. They're going to move up from 64 to 50, and they're going to take Mason Taylor, and your haul will be Nick Scorton and Mason Taylor. John, how'd I do?
Yeah, that'd be pretty good from the player standpoint. I like Nick Scorton because I've said it pretty consistently. It gives you a trait you don't have, but
yeah, that's why I brought him. I actually think he could fall too. You know, a couple of the other guys like Walter. Wouldn't do that.
He could definitely. He's not.
Too. Yeah,
that's the problem. His ceiling's probably not as high as some of the other guys. But I think he'd be a very safe pick. And I'm looking at the Eagles right now and the salary cap. Now this is the NFLPA the official salary cap report. They have 11,854,679. That's how much cap space they have. They lose $9.5 million of that by trading Dallas Goedert before June 1st.
So take Goddard out of the deal. He's not getting traded on draft night.
I don't think he is. No,
yeah, he's a June 1 move. They're going to make a move on him after June.
Yeah, if they can. But Howie's going to be stubborn, and that's why he's not getting picks anyway this year. That's why he wants a 4th round pick, and he doesn't mind waiting to 2027 or 2028 because he knows he's got a job. Other guys can't do that, but he can do that. So he'll probably get it eventually, but it's not about this draft and getting up in this draft and using him to move up in this draft. It's not valuable to the Eagles.
Yeah, well, I think the scenario I proposed of a trade back could make some sense, but we'll see what they end up doing. I do like Mason Taylor. That's why I brought him up. I just think he's going to be good. You know, I see some guy in here saying he'll be there at 64. I do not think he will be at all. I think he's going to be gone. You know, he's gotten a lot of late hype to Keem, so I don't know. Maybe the hype is overblown. Maybe it's not. What do you think? You think he'd be there at 64, John? Takeem thinks he will.
I'd say there's a 10% chance. I wouldn't count on it, but yeah, guys fall all the time. And you know, if somebody likes Arroyo better, you know, how many teams want tight ends that high in the draft? So if somebody says, you know what, Arroyo's better, I'm going to take Arroyo, and then the next team takes Ferguson, yeah, then he could be there. But how likely is that? Probably not.
Does Grant Calcaterra have any trade value?
No,
right?
No.
I'm just throwing it out there. Make Mason Taylor the pass catcher. Use Harrison Bryant and Kylan Granson to do whatever the hell else you want to do with the tight ends, and that's your committee of pro. I'd feel better about that than I do right now. But I'm admittedly not a huge Grant Calcaterra guy, despite him making some big plays for the Eagles, which I do appreciate, and I was happy for him.
Well, I mean, I have no problem with it. I think if the Eagles are better at tight end right now than they were last year, as long as Dallas Goedert plays. You know,
yeah, but come on, man, John, you heard the owner and the GM talking about him.
Well, it
sounded like he was gone. The owner clumped him in with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. The guy's as good as gone, Johnny.
Well, I've been saying that for weeks.
I know
but I'm saying technically he's still here. And with those, what I'm trying to point out is Calcaterra's backup, fine. Harrison Bryant, Kylan Granson, 3rd tight end, fine. You're better. You're better than you were last year.
I agree. Yeah.
However, Calcaterra gets pushed up to tight end 1. Kylan Granson's tight end 2. Harrison Bryant's tight end 3. That ain't good enough. And I'm trying to tweak our Harrison Bryant fan by putting Granson ahead of him. But the Eagles paid Granson more, so blame the Eagles.
Where's JD? Is JD still in here? Our resident Harrison Bryant fan. Yeah, what Granson got 1.6 million? Harrison got 1.2. Is that what it is?
Something like that. I think he got about 500 grand more. Colin Granson.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't win the Mackey Award, he got 500 grand more.
This is about Kirsten's nails it where I think Taylor's going. She says, I see Mason Taylor going anywhere from 35 to 60. I agree with that.
That's what people don't understand. They're all jumped together, So if somebody likes a different flavor, that's what everybody's talking about in this draft. 20 to 50, same, basically. So that means you can go 20 or you can go 50. And that's part of what makes this particular draft fun, but there's also a lot of range. Jeremiah was talking about that for a lot of players.
Tons of range on tons of guys. I mean, that's why we've already talked about this, where you see guys mocked literally all over the place.
I've seen Barron go 7, and I've seen him go
40.
Second round, yeah.
Yeah, second round. Me too.
7.
I don't love him that much. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Eagles.
I'm surprised to hear you say you got some info that he's well liked.
Eagles like him a lot. A lot.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Was he a top 30 guy? Did we talk about him as a top 30 guy? I don't remember his name.
Not that I know of. But again, there's some blind spots. But again, they don't bring in everybody they like. They are going to draft people they didn't bring in. But with Barron, he's a natural. I mean, he's a natural zone player with great instincts, anticipation. All that. What's that sound like? That sounds like Vic.
Right.
He's
versatile. Pretty small though. You think he'd be a nickel, or you think he'd be outside?
No, he's a safety, but he's played corner. No, I'm sorry, he's a corner. But he's played corner, he's played safety, is what I meant to say. He's played nickel, he's played all 3 positions. But I mean, he's like the quarters guy in this draft. Like if you play a lot of quarters and the Eagles play a lot of quarters, or you play a lot of cover 3, this is the guy you want. And that's, I think the fit is there for the Eagles. But he's very versatile, but he will be a corner. Outside corner, but he can play other positions. So you always want that. And, so can Starks for that matter. He's very versatile as well. He can play nickel, but he's more of a safety, obviously. And Jeremiah mentioned you could probably get through a game or 2 with him playing corner because he's versatile.
Right.
So the Eagles want some of that. But I just bringing him up. I've seen him go 7 to the Jets, and I've seen him go in the second round.
Doesn't that scare you a little bit when prospects it's different on a player?
It just tells me, remember, we're not talking about teams. We're talking about draft people. It just tells me that they're uncertain about these players. And they're uncertain about these players because there's not a lot of great players. Like nobody's uncertain on Carter. They'll bring up the injuries.
Yeah, right. But he's not being mocked outside the top 5.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hunter, there's no uncertainty.
I have some uncertainty on him, but
well, you don't see him mocked.
No, you don't see him mocked. There's no uncertainty on where he's going to be drafted. That's for sure.
Even Genty to a certain degree. Warren, you might have people think he might go 12 or 13, but not a ton of uncertainty.
Right.
Very few players like that in this draft. Walter Nolan. You got Jeremiah saying he might go top 15. Other people saying, "Oh, how many 32s Walter Nolan have you seen in Eagles mock drafts?" I've seen like 10.
At least 10.
15 to 32. That's a big range. Forget about 7 to 40. 7 to 40 is a huge range. 15 to 32 is a huge range.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of those types of players. So to the point about Mason Taylor earlier, yeah, could he fall to 64? I wouldn't bet on it, but certainly possible. There's a lot of uncertainty in this draft.
Yeah, Barron's an interesting player. We haven't talked much about him before today, but for those who don't know about him, he plays college ball at Texas. Got 4.39 speed, so he's very fast. Obviously, I think he's 5'11". Let me double check. Yeah, 5'11", around 195. So pretty good size for a cornerback. Last year, he was first team Associated Press All-American, first team All-SEC, won the Jim Thorpe Award for the nation's top defensive back. He was a finalist for the Nagurski Award, nation's top defender, Peach Bowl defensive MVP. So this guy had a pretty good year last year at Texas, but we will see what happens with him. John, real quick, I do want to ask you, because we're probably not going to talk about, we'll talk about it a little bit later in the week before the draft, but I do want to ask you about the NFC East foes. We've talked a lot about the Giants. I'm not as much talking about them, but you got the Cowboys sitting at 12. You got the Commanders sitting at what, 28, is it?
Yeah, 28.
Yeah. Where do you think those two teams go? We'll start with the Cowboys. They're kind of, I hate to say this, they're kind of picking in a good spot, John, where like you said, you don't want to be top 10. But they're going to have a chance early to be able to pick out, like, okay, did any of the elite blue chip guys fall a little bit? I think the Cowboys are in a good spot in terms of the draft. Where do you think they'll go this year?
Boy, I think there was a lot of talk early about Genty to the Cowboys, but he's not going to last to them, which – I wouldn't love that pick because I don't think they're ready to win. So a lot of people go to the second guy. There's two very good backs in this draft. Omarion Hampton from North Carolina is also a big-time back. I don't think they go that way. I'm torn with the Cowboys because I have tremendous respect for their top personnel guy. He's top 5 in the league. And then Jerry Jones can come in and fuck everything up. And more often than not, especially in the early, it could be the latter. And, I think they're going to go wide receiver. And I think it's a bad wide receiver draft.
Yeah. Who is your favorite wide receiver? Because, boy, I can't get a gauge on this wide receiver group really at all. I do not like Ted McMullen.
I don't like Ted McMullen. I think they might take Ted McMullen. I don't like him at all. A little bit. He reminds me of Laquan Treadwell. He's a contested catch guy.
I like Golden more than I like McMullen.
I like everybody more than I like. Now I'm exaggerating. I'm sure McMullen's going to be better than Laquan Treadwell, but that's who he reminds me of.
Golden's pretty good, actually.
I don't like any of the wide receivers. The kid from Ohio State would be my top wide receiver. And he belongs in the 20s probably.
Mika Buka. Yeah, he's a good player.
I think he's a good, solid. He's going to be a good second wide receiver 2 in the NFL. Really good. Golden probably has more upside. But I fear they're going to go wide receiver. Well, you shouldn't fear if you're an Eagles fan. And I fear it's going to be for them. I think it's going to be Ted McMullen, who's great contested catch guy, but I want guys who create separation. If you don't create separation, you're screwed in the NFL as a receiver. You may make the highlight catch every once in a while, but play to play,
basis, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah. So I think that's where they might go, and I think that would be very desirable for the Eagles.
Yeah, because that'd be an overdraft. You could fall back probably. I mean, I see people talking about Luther Burden. I like Burden too, but I don't think you need to take him at 12. I think you could fall back. Yeah, I mean, he could fall back a little bit. Get him. You could. So
again, everybody wants to fall back.
Yeah, it's true. And again, let's be real, Jerry. If anybody's going to make a dumb value decision, you're probably counting on Jerry Jones to be one of them. So maybe he makes a dumb decision. It's funny because they did lose a Hall of Fame offensive lineman this year, and they lost to Marcus Lawrence. They need trench players. I mean, I don't know if they're going to go that route because the Cowboy fandom all wants a sexy pick versus one of those picks.
Every fandom wants a sexy pick.
I don't care about a sexy pick at all this year for the Eagles. If they take Gray Zabel at 32, I will not have one bad thing to say.
Well, I'm not talking about you personally. I mean, fan bases as a whole want skilled people. They always do. It's nothing new. It's not Philadelphia. It's everywhere. They get an offensive lineman could turn into Zach Martin,
right.
Hall of Famer. They all wanted Johnny Manziel. Oh, you got to get Johnny Manziel. And Philadelphia should know better than most that trenches help. But every fan base wants skilled people.
Yeah, not every. I mean, I hear you. And generally speaking, I agree. But not every fan. I mean, I think there are fans, especially our.
No, there's individual fans who.
No, but I mean, I think there's a consensus of general. People call them casuals. I see Jason, casual fans, but that's fine. I mean, not everybody's going to be locked in on football all the time, like everybody here is. But
trust me, wherever the vast majority, wherever Membo goes and Will Campbell goes, and they're both probably going to go top 10. Maybe Will falls out, but he's certainly going to go near top 10.
I think the Jets or somebody like that takes Membo.
Wherever they go, that fan base is going to be unhappy.
Maybe the Panthers. I think the Panthers really should take them. They're
going to be unhappy. They're going to be and they're going to say, I'll tell you right now, with Jets fans will say, "Oh, it's another Becton."
Will Jerry Jones draft Tyler Warren at 12 if he's there? I would see Jerry would run that pick to the podium himself at 90 years old if Tyler Warren.
I don't think that's the case for the reasons you talked about before. Nobody's getting that excited about a tight end. Maybe even if you look at last year with Brock Bowers, he's phenomenal talent. Obviously, he already delivered at the level he delivered. They're in the no man's land. They're not skill position players, but they are skill position players, but they're not sexy skill position players, which is really quarterbacks and wide receivers.
Yeah, right.
But there are no wide receivers who belong, which is weird because the wide receiver classes have been so good every year. You just expect a whole boatload of wide receivers. And this year, it's not good. It's not good on paper at the top.
Yeah, no, it's not. They do have Jake Ferguson, but I'm not a big fan of him. Fredo says, Zander, AJ's car guns. Yeah, we saw. Hey, Fredo, we talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. Brutal, brother. Don't steal. Don't steal anything. All right. Don't steal a candy bar from a gas station, let alone someone's vehicle. For crying aloud. But we did see that. There's good stuff. Yeah. I could see them doing that, but we will see. Tyler Warren. What about the Commanders, John? By the way, they're 29, not 28, so I apologize for that. But what do you think they go? Are they going to be a smart organization, or has Adam Peters' very short stint at being competent, has it come to an end already?
Boy, really piling on. Well, no, because I'm
not a fan of what Peters did this offseason. I won't lie to you. I think he did the opposite.
Well, I'll say this: he can't draft a 49er, so you don't have to worry about that. I do think he's fallen too much in love with players he's used to, but these are all new players, so did a good job in last year's draft. I think they need an edge rusher. They're in a position like the Eagles, and they're a little bit ahead of the Eagles. So they could be in the Shamar Stewart business. Again, we talk about range of players. Michael Williams, see him going, he might go 15, he might go 28. Mike Green, he might go 15, he might go 13, he might go 29. I think they'll be in the edge rusher business, which could affect the Eagles. Because they're in the edge rusher business as well. But I think Ezeraku, if he falls by Tampa, see a lot of hype with him to Tampa. Eagles are interested. I don't see how he gets to 32. Washington's in the way as well. So, I mean, that's a team, Washington, the Eagles might have to go up ahead of if they're
Right.
and certainly in the same division, if they think they're looking at the player they want, and they very well could be, because they're going to be in the market. And to a certain degree, if they're not going edge rusher, they might go corner as well. Part of that is trying to deal with AJ and Devontae every year. So they might be in the cornerback business, which the Eagles have looked at, the Trey Amoses of the world, the Maxwell Harristons.
Yeah.
So a lot of similarities.
I think it's really clear, John, that the best value spot of this draft is the top of the second round. I think that's where you're going to be able to feast on value right there. Which might not be good to have the 32 pick. Might not be good for the
not as good as it typically is, because I don't think you're going to have the interest of already teams are talking about, all right, we'll go up to the top of the second round to get the quarterback. So if you don't want that 5th-year option, there's not much. That's the lone advantage. And if you don't want it, a lot of times, and Howie, I talked to Howie about this over the years, and he explained a lot of times you don't want it at certain positions, the 5th-year option. And at quarterback, you generally do want it if you like the player. But if you don't like the player and you're like Tyler Shuck, I don't need a 5th year on him. We'll see. If he turns into something. Again, sometimes GMs overthink themselves just like pants. And it's like, well, if he performs well, you're going to pay him anyway. You're going to rip it all up. It's not going to mean anything. You know, who isn't making a decision on the quarterback by the 5th year?
Yeah, right.
Oh, I need that.
You're right about that, but I do think like it adds a little bit. Like you said, you can't go into the draft with only trying to draft value, but it is a part of it, right? And that's how I think of this.
Yeah. But to the point, I think people overblow that. And I've said it because that's the thinking around the NFL. I'm not trying to say it isn't. Oh, go and get that 5th-year option in case, because you have 6 years. You essentially have the player under control for 6 years. But you don't want a player under control over 6 years if he's like, who are you wavering on at quarterback after 6 years?
I know.
Kirk Cousins?
Certainly not Tyler Shuck. The guy will be 48.
The only one I can think about is Kirk Cousins in Washington, where they franchised him, and he wasn't a 1st-round pick. He was a 4th-round pick, but they franchised him twice.
In the same draft.
Yeah, but they franchised him twice because they didn't want to commit to him. And they're probably right. He's good. He's not great. But how rare is that? Like, you either believe in a guy or you don't believe in a guy. And if you believe in a guy, he's long gotten his extension.
Right.
That's how I kind of look at it. I should be a GM, by the way. Anybody wants to call me.
Go for it, Johnny.
John,
here's the thing. And again, I will say with full context here, I'm not saying that this person is even close to what will happen. But the reason I brought up the 2nd-round value thing is this is just one mock draft. Again, it might be completely bullshit, okay? But I'm just saying these are the type of names I think that could be there in round 2. Doesn't mean they're going to be, again, but they could be there. Zabel, Oladejo, Maxwell Hairston, potentially Josh Connerly, potentially Trey Amos, potentially Donovan Jackson, potentially Nick Scorton, potentially Kenneth Grant. Again, I don't think all these guys will be there. Kevin Winston Jr., the Penn State guy, Mason Taylor, the quarterbacks, if you like one of those guys like Quinn Ewers or a Jalen Milrow, maybe they're sitting there. Like, those are the type of names that I think could make the 2nd round super valuable. And then the Eagles might shake and bake there in round 2, especially if they fall out of that pick 32. But still no trades, John. Still no trade. Yeah. I thought you'd see a pin drop or a domino fall.
Yeah. No trades because no quarterbacks. You know, you generally try to go up to get in a position to get a quarterback. And every other position, you kind of wait. And Howie told me this during the press conference. You kind of wait until you see how the board falls. And then like Devontae Smith, Jordan Davis.
Right.
How's the board falling? This is our guy. We got to go up and get him. Quarterbacks, you gotta be proactive, and nobody wants these quarterbacks. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. Yeah, that's not true.
I can't
get my
wait to
point.
see where
And
these
again, I hope people understand my point. They're going to get drafted. They're all going to get drafted relatively high, but nobody's head over heels.
Yeah, there's been years where people will sell the house to get one.
Exactly.
That's not the year. That's not the type of draft this is this year, without a doubt. So I can't wait to see where these dudes go, John. Just because I'm tired of speculating them all over the damn board, man. I want to know, where does Shedeur go? Where does Milroe go? Where does Jackson throw? I couldn't believe the curveball you threw me today. That your 2 guaranteed quarterbacks in round 1 wasn't Shedeur and Cam Ward. It was Cam and Jackson Dart. I couldn't believe that curveball you threw at me.
Yep. Those are the only 2 I'm going to guarantee. Now, I think Pittsburgh at 21. I think they're going to take Dart if New Orleans doesn't take him. I think New Orleans isn't going to take him. But he could go top 10. They could change their mind for the more polished Drew Lock. 21, I got Pittsburgh. I'll have Pittsburgh. I think I'm not locking it down, but I think Pittsburgh's going to take Jackson Dart. And if Dart's gone, I think then they would ship to Milroe before Sanders.
Boy, so you are really projecting a Sanders slide, it sounds like.
Well, again, he could go 9. I doubt it now.
I doubt it too. I think a realistic spot for him is the Raiders. What are they at 6?
I don't think the Raiders are taking him.
I don't either. They just paid Geno Smith for crying out loud. But
all right, the Raiders want Genty, and that's where the Jacksonville comes in. Jacksonville might take him at 5. If he's there, the Raiders are taking him. So that could change things for the Raiders. But who falls? So it's Cam Ward 1. I believe Cleveland. I believe they're going to take Travis Hunter, but if it's Carter or Hunter, the next one, the Giants are taking the next one. I don't think the Giants are taking them. The Patriots are probably, they're hoping that Carter or Travis Hunter falls to them. It's probably not going to happen. They'll probably go offensive line. So that's your potential first Membo spot, or Will Campbell.
Yeah.
Jacksonville, again, wild card, always a wild card, it seems. If they take Genty, that screws up the Raiders. Jalen Walker, a lot of people, Georgia kid, a lot of people pick him in that range. The Jets are in the Membo, the Tyler Warren conversation. Boy, the Jets fans are not going to like Membo, but might be the smartest pick, but they're not going to like that. Carolina, again, bad organization, bad decision makers. But you remember there was that report that they were going to sign Milton Williams before New England blew up everything. So I think that's probably your Mason Graham spot from Michigan. Saints got to look into who they want, because now it's pretty clear that they're not going to take a quarterback that early. Bears, Tyler Warren would be in the conversation there. I mentioned Barron to the Jets. I've seen that. I've seen him to the 49ers as well at 11. Cowboys, we just talked about. They might be the Tet McMullen people, which I think would be
I'll rejoice if they pick them, man. Oh,
and we talk about Miami at 13. They're another. I've seen Starks to Miami on a couple mock drafts, couple good mock drafts. I don't mean good. None of them are good. Mine isn't good. Nobody's as good. But I mean, guys who are plugged in. I've seen Starks to Miami a couple of times. So you talk about that range.
I saw that Barron guy to them a lot too.
Yeah, a lot of secondary people.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you talk, and I don't think Starks is going there, but I'm just pointing out because I thought about him going down the list of teams.
Right.
And I've seen a couple of people put him in Miami, and I'm like 13 to 32. That's his range. I mean, that's crazy. Indianapolis, Shane, good luck, man. First, he's got to figure out Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. That might be the floor for Tyler Warren. That might be the absolute floor, Indianapolis.
At where? What spot?
14.
14 floor.
But, they might like Loveland. A lot of people like Loveland more than Warren. If you want just a pure pass catcher, then you start getting there. Atlanta, Arizona. Boy, this is going to be difficult. I'm just going through this because I have to do my mom. This is going to be really freaking difficult because it is just all over the place. I think Tampa's 19. I've heard Ezeraku to Tampa numerous times from people that work down there, from people that I think that might be his spot. But, there's another guy, 19 to 32, Ezeraku, or second round. Think about that range. A lot of people have Denver taking Hampton, the running back, the other running back. Pittsburgh, I just talked about.
I like Marion Hampton. He's a good player.
Yeah, he's very good.
Falling under the radar a little bit just because of the hype of Genty, which I'm not saying is unwarranted, but I think
when I talk about this being a bad draft, it ain't a bad draft for running backs. They have two big-time running backs. But again, you got to be in a position to win to take advantage of them. I don't know if the teams taking them are going to be in a position to win. Certainly Genty, he's going to Jacksonville or the Raiders. I don't like that pick. I like the player, but I don't like that pick for those teams. Pittsburgh, I think they're going to take a quarterback, and I think it's going to be Dart. Chargers. Who knows? I got to think about it. Packers, I think if you think about Jair Alexander, where things are going, probably going to take a corner. So that might be the, Trey Amos range, Maxwell Hairston range. That's where that starts. Minnesota, if there's any team that's going to trade out, it's going to be them because they have 4 picks. So somebody's trading up to that spot, 24. Houston's probably going to take an offensive lineman, I would think. One of the guys who falls, the Rams. Rams are good, man. Rams draft well. I
get the Rams trading back.
Rams draft well. Ravens draft well. Lions draft well. Boy, no coincidence. It's the good teams. Rams, Ravens, Lions, then the Commanders we talked about, Buffalo, Kansas City, Philadelphia.
Yep. No coincidence at all.
No. And of that group, I think Kansas City might draft the worst, but
which is why the Eagles should jump ahead of all of them. I've been talking about a targeted trade up for months. It's what I want the Eagles to do. If you draft after the Rams, after the Ravens, after the Commanders, after the Lions, after the Chiefs, and after the Bills, man, who you left with, John? Those are all the best teams drafting right in front of you. They're going to take the value. They're going to take the smart picks.
Yeah. Probably.
Jump them. Go to call the Rams and go to 26. Come on, Howie.
24. They could go to 24.
But the who? Vikings are 24?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that too.
Because again, they only have 4 picks. So they'll want volume.
How many picks do the Rams have? Are they low on picks again, or no? They're finally back to having 7 picks, or at least.
I'd have to look it up, but they're not drastically low.
Yeah.
Like 4 is drastically
4
low.
is crazy low. Even the year that we only had like 5, that was low, right? With 5 picks.
Yeah.
That was 2018 when we took Goddard and Maddox, and then, but
yeah.
Let's get to a couple super chats, but I'll let you look up what you're looking up there with the draft picks for the Rams.
Yeah, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but 4 of them are in the 6th round. So they have a 1st round pick, 26, 3rd round pick, 90. So they might, want to get a 2nd round pick. Number 3, 101, which is compensatory, and a 4th rounder, 127. And 4 6th rounders. So they have a decent amount of picks, but they'd probably like to have a 2nd rounder, I would think.
Suo Blades, go to some super chats here as we wrap up this Monday edition, 4 days out from the NFL draft. Everybody, will the Eagles make a pick on Thursday night, or will we be talking Friday night? We will see. Suo Blades checks in. Mason Taylor reminds me of Sam Laporta. Both not good at blocking coming out, but a willing blocker. Now look at him. Taylor will be a stud. I agree. I think that's a great comp. And I think Taylor, while he doesn't do much blocking, and he was excellent in the passing and great yak guy, I think he could learn. He's 6'5", 255. I mean, he's a big dude. I think he could pick up the blocking, similar to what you talked about, John, with Goddard. Kind of learned it, in his career, because he was never asked to do it that much in college.
No, nobody's asked to do it.
Yeah, right.
Nobody's asked.
It's college football. They pass all over the yard. Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of the blocking part is projection. Dallas Goedert was literally never asked to block it out because he was too good. So, they flexed him out. And,
yeah, right.
He played receiver and he sort of just took to it. So a lot of it comes to that. Nobody knew what George Kittle would become. George Kittle was at WrestleMania, by the way, big wrestling fan.
I gotta watch. I'm gonna watch the highlights today. What was the better day, Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday. Sunday.
I saw somebody on my timeline said like the day was better on Sunday, and then the main event was better on Saturday.
The main event was better on Saturday.
Yeah,
yes.
that was with Seth.
People were criticizing the undercard Saturday. Great main event. The opposite on Sunday. The first 3 matches were outrageously good. And the main event was lesser than people wanted. I don't know. Well, part of it is because Rock didn't show up. I don't know what's going on with him, but and they were expecting him to be there. So it was just, seen as old at this point. It was always going to be a story-based match. And I think people were disappointed that it wasn't some kind of brilliant in-ring match. It was never set up to be that. But the fact that Rock didn't show up disappointed, I think, a lot of people. So had more to do with that. Still a good story. But the first 3 matches, watch the women's match, which was Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, which opened Sunday. Unbelievable match. Everybody should watch it if you like wrestling. If you don't like wrestling, I don't care. Don't watch it.
How was the production? What did it meet the moment?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. That's what I like the most. Brian Fleming checks in. With so much variability in the evaluation of talent in this week draft, what trash teams absolutely botch picks besides the Falcons and Giants? That's a great question. What teams are guaranteed to botch a freaking pick? Jacksonville's one.
I gave it. Look, Chanty's a great player, but what is he going to do with Jacksonville or Las Vegas? I think the Eagles proved this year you can take a running back if you're in a position where a running back's going to help you. Running back, you can't build on a running back. Saw it for 6 years with the Giants. But the Eagles had the offensive line. Turns out they had the defense. Nobody knew it, but turns out they had the defense. And obviously they were in a position to take advantage of a star running back. So I have no problem if a good team wants to invest in a running back. A rebuilding team, I don't think that's a good idea. And so I think it starts with those two teams, Jacksonville and Las Vegas, which typically they make a lot of bad decisions. Look, I think it starts number one. Cam Ward should be in Kenny Pickett range in my estimation, but he's going number one overall. Carolina, Dallas.
Dallas is a good one.
Well, and again, Dallas says, Eagles fans,
pretty good, yeah.
Eagles fans can laugh, but they have one of the best personnel people in the business if he's allowed to do his job. And then when you start looking at 18 to, I'd say 25, those teams just want to get the hell out.
Yeah.
They're not all going to be able to get the hell out. So they're just going to be reaching and trying to get players. And remember, part of the problem is the labeling, and I bring up Bill Polian because he was talking about that this morning. It's like on a good year, you got 20 to 21 real first round picks. And everybody else is sort of considered in NFL building as a second round pick. But in the public sphere, they're always first round picks for the rest of their lives. And it works both ways. If you're a first round pick, the expectations are you're going to be a good player. And if you even turn into a Derek Barnett, as an example, who's a competent player, still in the league for a lot of years, but he didn't live up to the billing as a first round pick. And you always have that in the shadow chasing you. And that's big because people don't care if you're a real first round pick or a pumped up first round pick. You're a first round pick. You're muted, Zander.
My bad. Brian, thank you for the super chat. Suo, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate everybody. Bird Gang Girl, up their membership. Bird Gang Girl, thank you so much. Appreciate everybody being here on a Monday edition of the show. Had a great crowd here today. As always, we're 4 days out from the NFL draft. Johnny Mac, great show, brother. Your final thoughts on this Monday edition. We'll talk to Jeff tomorrow. We're used to talking to Jeff on a Monday. But
yeah,
we'll kick him tomorrow.
Late tap out by Jeff Kerr, but
late tap. That's all right.
He's going to come in.
Yeah, he does a lot for Jeff, so I'm not mad at him at all. We appreciate Jeff Kerr as always. But your final thoughts on this Monday edition, Johnny Mac?
Well, it's finally here, finally draft week. So what do we got? 3 more shows and it'll be here. And we can finally talk about somebody, maybe, who knows if they take a pick on Thursday, but we can finally start talking about new Philadelphia Eagles players instead of the 67 first round picks.
Somebody's got to fall, John. I've heard a lot of people that.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody's got to freaking
Somebody's got to fall. And if you look at all the names, this guy's going to be a first round. This guy's going to be a first. This guy, they can't all be first round picks.
Yeah, right. No doubt. Johnny Mac, thank you, brother. I will talk to you tomorrow morning on Birds 365. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thanks, all.
All right, there's Johnny Mac, John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. Give him a follow at JF McMullen over on XP, up to date with all of your Eagles news from the best reporter in the business. We appreciate Johnny Mac. It's draft week, everybody. How we feeling on a Monday morning? Come on, baby. The NFL draft is 4 days away. Are you finally fired up? I am not. Why? Someone tell me why. I'm getting there. Brandon says hyped. All right, Brandon. Brandon, I'm counting on you this week to bring the hype to the chat. All right, Brandon? I'm putting that onus on you. Dre, what's up, my boy? Dank, what's up, Dank? Jason A-Team's in here. Twiz the Jigger. What up, Twiz? KCA says, no, this class stinks. I don't know. No, I don't think the class stinks. I just think the top is just like boring. But I do love the potential of differing outcomes in this draft. I feel like that always exists, but I feel like it's heightened a little bit this year where like players can go all over the place. I mean, Pierce is top 15 or top 45. Like there's a lot of that. So I am interested to see where players go, from that. Bird Gang, I think says, Dank Bird Gang says basically, I think what most Eagles fans are truly thinking, but might not want to admit. We're Super Bowl champions. I don't give a F. Dank, and I think that's Dank, as fun as it is, as awesome as it is to win the Super Bowl, I do think this is one of the things that are different in the off seasons, right? Like last year, we were all so pumped. Last couple of years, we've been so pumped on the NFL draft. Even after the 22 Super Bowl where we lost, we were so damn pumped for that draft. We got Jalen Carter. We got Nolan Smith. Now we had 2 picks. Obviously, the situation was different, but now we won a Super Bowl, man. And I feel like people are just kind of like even I was at Easter yesterday and, talking to my uncle, talking to my cousins, and everybody's just kind of in cruise control. They're like, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to the Eagles season to start. One guy, my uncle was like, oh, they actually going to trade AJ Brown? Is that real? I'm like, no, relax. They're not. But I just think there's kind of that mentality, amongst the fan base. I can't blame them either. Look, what do we do? We reached the mountaintop. So I do think that's a part of it, though. Siglor, what's up, my brother? He says, I'm just excited to see what happens. It's going to be top dog. We will see, man. Bob Brown, what's up, Bob? Hope you're doing well this week. Hope you had a great Easter, my man. He says, Xander, the draft is like Christmas morning. We're looking for new toys. This year we get socks and underwear. Not that we want, but we may need. It's true, Bob. It's true, Bob. I'm not one of those people that struggles for socks and underwear. Now, maybe you might, Bob, but I typically buy like a lot of them. Like I hate opening my drawer. Buy the same pair of underwear and buy 50 pairs. That's my mentality. All right. That's my mentality. Load them up. Load them up. I don't want to be deciding every morning. I don't want to be picking through. All right. Ready? What's up, Twiz? Ready for guys, fans. Expect to get 20 sacks, 100 tackles, 10 forced fumbles, or you're a bust. Yeah, I know, Twiz. That's part of it. That's part of it. I lose my socks a lot. Alfredo says, stop worrying. We're nailing this draft like the other few. Oh, I think they're nailing it, Alfredo. I'm not worried about that. I'm just more talking about because we won the Super Bowl, the level of care, the level of consideration, the level of depth which you dissect each pick and each move and each potential outcome, I think is lessened because of winning the Super Bowl, because of overcoming that feat. That's all. That's all. I got you too, brother. I appreciate you. Can't wait for fans to cry about getting a player they don't know about. That'll happen. That'll happen. Whoever we draft will be called the Bust by Sills. It's a good bet, Daz. It's a good bet. That is a good bet. I'll be pushing back on Sills. Don't worry. I'll be pushing back on Sills. All right? I'll be pushing back on Sills. All right, everybody. I appreciate all you guys being here. Not going to have much of a Xander time today. I know you all love it. I do want to give an update on the giveaways. Cody K won. Kirsten Carter won. Lucius won. Josh B won. Brian Fleming won. Bird Gang Girl won. All right. Those are all be sent out. Bird Gang Girls and Brian Flemings were sent out this morning. I printed the label on Friday. I just never got a chance to take them. And then the weekend was very busy with Easter weekend. So I didn't have a chance to ship them, but I ship them out today. And then Josh B, Lucius, Kirsten, and Cody K. I'll handle all of yours this week as well. And we will have a couple more giveaways later on in the week as well. Also have Joe Whip. Did I mention Joe? Did I not mention Joe Whip? Joe, sorry, bro. I got yours in here too. Apologize for that, Joe. I got you in there, though. All right. I need an extended Xander time. I had a big Easter dinner. Brian, you're not getting it, all right? You're not getting it. I can't help but want a Jared Verse level player. I agree with that, Dre. One second. This damn mouse is broken on me now. The iMac's crashing. Everything's crashing, everybody. I got to get it all fixed. I got to get it all new stuff. Yeah, someone stole AJ's car. I don't know what's going on with that. I saw he put out a video. I didn't get a chance to watch it yet, but I saw the tweet he put out as well. Stop stealing people's cars. I know the criminals who are going to be criminals aren't listening to me right now, so But if you're in here, please don't be one of those people. I don't think any of you are. All right. I appreciate all you guys being here. Hit that like button today. I thought we had a great show. Me and John really had a chance because we had no Jeff. We had a chance to really dive into the draft, talk about what some other teams might do, talk about the NFC East, talk about those top picks. So super excited for that. We will have tons of draft coverage. This week. All right. So Thursday night, Friday night. I don't know if, and hopefully none of my family's listening, but Friday's a little bit tough for me. I will be live for the draft, but it's my 60th birthday. So and there's like a little surprise party planned for her. So hopefully she's not listening to me right now. I don't think she is, but I have to figure that out Friday night. So that's going to be a little bit of a hurdle for me, but the one promise I will have is we'll have content. Don't worry. We'll have content. All right. But I appreciate all you guys being here. Keep it locked in. All right. Keep it locked in. We'll be live again 2 to 6. I'm going to post out the open today from the National or from Birds 365. If you missed it, it was a good one. Get prepped for the NFL draft. And then also shoot down the dumb AJ Brown rumors. All right. So we shot those down pretty well. Again, I don't know how many times we've done that, but we'll have to continue to do it probably until the draft. All right. So we'll talk about that. Hey, good to see you, my boy, Brandon Howard. Appreciate you, Kirsten, Oklahoma, my Oklahoma girl. Appreciate you, Brian Fleming, Dre, Daz, Dank Bird Gang girl. Or no, Bird Gang girl and Dank Bird Gang. I'm getting mixed up today. Jason, A-Team. Appreciate all of you guys. All right, so hit that like button on your way out. We had a great crowd in here today, which we appreciate. Sig Lord says, how was my Easter? It was beautiful, Sig Lord. I absolutely love Easter. I really do. I just think it's a beautiful holiday. I think there's a beautiful feeling in the air that exists. Obviously, the resurrection of Jesus is the legitimate cornerstone of our faith if you're a Christian. So it's a huge day in our faith, the biggest day in our faith. It's not Christmas, it's Easter, okay? The resurrection of Jesus. None of our faith makes sense without the resurrection, all right? So very big day for me. I'm a faith-filled man. I love Easter Sunday. Always been one of my favorite holidays. So hope everybody enjoyed it. Hope everybody had a chance to spend time with yourself or your loved ones or whoever it is that you wanted to spend Easter with. And then the last thing I will say before we get out of here is I mentioned it at the start of the show. Is the passing of Pope Francis. Obviously, I will pray for the repose of his soul. That's a sad one, a tough one to talk about the day after Easter. Not something I expected to be talking about. Obviously, we knew that he had some health issues, but I won't fully go deep into that. We are a football show, so I don't feel the need to air out much of that. But I will say we'll pray for the Pope, obviously. So rest in peace to Pope Francis. And I'll pray for the repose of his soul. All right. The only Jesuit Pope. Yeah. Jesuits, they have their pros and their cons without a doubt, Brian. Okay. They certainly do. But again, I don't want to get into that because that's I think that's one of those things that falls on the controversial line that people like to debate about. I'm not here to debate about any of that on a Monday morning. All right. But it is NFL draft week. That's the main importance on this week. Okay. That's the main importance for this week on the show. Texas T, I'll get your JAKIB stuff. Don't worry. I haven't ordered any of the new JAKIB merch in, but I'll get it in and I will get it. I have you still listed, JAKIB Care Pack. Don't worry. There's no green check next to your name. If there's no green check, it means that I still have to do stuff for you. All right. So I will get all that done as soon as possible. But I appreciate all of you guys for being here. Pray for the Pope. All right. Hope everybody had a great Easter. And I will catch you all next time on Birds 365. Thank you all and see you next time.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.